We're ready
We
to
are
go.
live streamed. We're also going to take one moment and hit that record button because that's always important. So normally we have a whole bunch of people here to do all this stuff, and today everybody's sick. So we are going to make it work, and it's going to be awesome. And with that, we're going to hear from Tracy about what this show is about.
Hey everybody, good morning. My name is Tracy Champagne and we want to welcome you to the Connect Show. For every show, we invite some of the best and the brightest to help you succeed in your business no matter where you are in your journey.
Absolutely. And to start, let's go into the chat. And what is one thing you'd like to do better in LinkedIn in the next 30 days? You know, we're coming up, we're 32 days away from 22, so that's a lot of numbers. Actually, it's 32 from 22. There, we have a motto for the day, and that's going to work out fantastic.
And if you're in Zoom, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on podcasts, LinkedIn, YouTube, or the Facebooks, and reach out to us at theideasoftheconnectshow.com so you can get your questions answered by experts. Today, we have a fantastic guest. Deb Ashley is going to help us become a LinkedIn Black Belt. Pretty excited to hear what she has to say. And Kim Knock will be also joining us with our networking report.
And this is going to be an exciting show, but we like to acknowledge that we have a sponsor, and that is Serendipity Labs. And I know I talk about them way too much. What else could I possibly talk about? Well, the place is filling up, so there's a lot of people here, and there's just a lot of energy. So it's great during lunch to have that office camaraderie, to walk down the hall and give somebody a, hey, how's it going? And not be sitting alone in my room or in my home office all day, like we all did for so long. So if you want to get out of the house, even if it's for one day a week, go down to Serendipity Labs. There's 40 of them across the country, so that's a wonderful organization to be a part of and a great way to make new friends.
That's awesome. And coming up in December, we'll be talking about goal setting for the new year. We have a whole lot of guests already planned and ready to go, so I'm excited about that. And we're also going to be having a Christmas party, which we just got done planning. So you're going to be in for a real treat for that. And the Christmas party is live and in person. So if you're near Serendipity Labs, you should stop in for that because we probably will have some nice treats also. And in January, we'll be talking about sales, and in February, financial help. And in March, we'll be talking about organizations. We have plenty of things coming up for you guys.
It's a full month ahead of us. So the Connect Show is all about connecting. So go ahead and put your contact info into the chat. We'd like you to connect with the other people on the show and have an opportunity to do those one-on-ones, do some networking. And coming up, Deb is going to teach us how to meet more people on LinkedIn and get those calls to action into producing results. So we have a quote of the day, and that is, if you're on social media and you're not learning and not laughing and not being inspired or not networking, then you're using it wrong. And that is by Germany Kent. And we don't know who Germany is, but we just thought it was a really beautiful quote, and she has a really cool name. So we decided to use that because I think our guest today, Deborah Ashley, who is a LinkedIn Black Belt, is going to be showing us how to have fun, be inspired, be inspiring while on LinkedIn. And that's so important.
But before we get to our guest, we should talk about our Vitamins for the Soul segment, which is where we would like to hear about what you do to keep yourself in the right mindset. And today, I think we'd like to hear from Van. I did reach out to Van earlier before the show and asked him what kind of stuff does he do to get himself into the right mindset. And then after Van can kind of set the stage for keeping us in the right mindset, I'm curious about what everybody else has to say about that also.
Thanks, Tracy. And hello, everyone. I try to listen to my body to keep the mindset in place. Start off at the beginning of the day. We're very relaxed, just thinking about the tasks, the goals to be accomplished for that day, and then how they feed out through the rest of the weekend or the month. Hour by hour, minute by minute. Again, it's just listening to the body. There are times where I may just put my head down for 5-15 minutes and kind of let things stew on the brain. Other times, the body says we need to be outside. We need some fresh air. We need a walk. We need maybe a little more specific exercise. I'm fortunate I'm in a position where I have some flexibility to be able to do that. But really, it's listening to the body and trying to give the body what it needs to stay healthy, stay focused, alert, and hopefully, as happy as possible.
That's great. Thanks, Van. That was good.
Yeah. Paying attention to your body is very important.
I find that being kind of in the house a lot and sitting a lot, doing editing, those types of things, I need to stretch my lungs. Like it feels, I love that feeling of after you run or you ride, that feeling of your lungs being worked. Your lungs are down here, but it's just for for the visual, okay? We're not anatomically correct, but yeah, that's my thing is the stretching of the lungs. How about you, Tracy?
I've actually recently started doing some meditation in the morning, and I'm finding that very enlightening. And I'm not 100% sure what it does yet, but I know it's doing something.
Are you using any of the things when Chris Rivera and Bridget Hom and Serena Talbot were all on the show? They talked about creating your future story and falling in love with that story. Are you doing any of that in your meditation?
A little bit. Right now I'm doing a lot of the guided meditations just so I can kind of get the feel for it, because having never done it before, I want to make sure I'm going to do it the right way. I don't know that there is a right or a wrong way, but so right now I'm just doing the guided ones, and sometimes during the guided ones, they'll lead me into, think about this for your future. What do you want to get done that day and that kind of stuff. So a little bit.
Okay, real quick, do you prefer American accent or Australian or British accent in the guided meditation?
I've discovered I like the American because I don't want to have to try to figure out what they're saying, because I have to figure it out. Then it's distracting me from just doing what I'm supposed to do.
I get it. So we have a very cozy crowd today. Karen, what is one thing you do in your morning routine?
Oh, every morning I wake up and I meditate. And what I do is I deep breathe and I focus. And I just, when I say I focus, I connect with divine spirit. And that's what I do. Hang on, I've got some noise in the background. Hold on a second.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry about that. My air cleaner was a little too high. I focus basically on divine inspiration and wherever it takes me. And I was actually reading this morning, there's an old book called The Magic of Thinking Big. And in there, towards the end, he talks about two different types of meditation, directed and undirected. So directed is focusing on a specific thing, like a problem that needs to be solved. And undirected is just letting your mind go and seeing where it goes. And so some mornings I'll do the directed, and some mornings I'll do the undirected. It just depends on what I'm feeling. And what Van was saying about listening to your body, I do that all the time, all day long. And so I touch base with my body while I'm doing that. And it actually tells me what my body's capable of doing that day. And so if it's not capable of doing certain things, then I have to readjust things a little bit. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And then I'll read for a little while. I drink water, a couple glasses of water. I have this whole routine that I go through.
I love it. Roy, welcome to the show. I haven't seen you before. Thanks so much for joining us today. Do you have something that you do to get yourself in the right mindset for the day?
Well, yes. Every morning I meditate. It's a very important thing to start my day. I then, kind of like Karen, I do a lot of specific thinking while I'm meditating, but I also meditate on nothing at times, and both work very well. The specific stuff is very important because then I know exactly what I need to do for that day, which is tied into what I'm doing for the week, which is tied in, to the month and so on. But it takes me into the specific things, and the universal guidance that I get from that allows me to get all that done. The right people enter my life at the right time and the right things happen. I don't know exactly why it occurs that way, but it does. I've been doing this for over 30 years and it works like a charm.
Isn't it great if you think whatever you think usually happens? So mindset is so important. I love that you brought that up, Roy. Kim, do you have something that you do in the morning or to start your day to get in the right mindset?
Honestly, no. And it's a goal of mine for next year to get myself into that right mindset. And everybody's talking meditation, so I'm just going to have to try it. So if you guys have like a favorite series or something that you listen to, because I am pretty brand new to it, throw it in the chat because I'm saving it and I'm gonna put it in
I love it.
for my 2022 goals. So thank
love
you
it.
guys for all of that.
Yes, yes. It's interesting when you listen to somebody, like one person for a long time, you develop this like attachment and connection to them through their voice. Wayne Dyer is that person for me. I've listened to 1,000 of his meditations and his programs, and his voice is so calming that it is my go-to voice for meditation.
And I love it. People are putting stuff in the chat, so thank you. You guys rock.
It's all about getting better together. And with that, we are going to do a quick little commercial, and then we're going to bring on our guest, Deborah Ashley, and we're all going to stretch out because we are going to be black belts by the end of this session today, and it's going to rock. But first, let's hear from Serendipity Labs. Okay, Deb, we're going to do a quick intro and ranked in the top 1% of LinkedIn users globally. Her LinkedIn advice and strategies have been used to re-engage lost customers, gain Fortune 500 contracts, and develop strategic partnerships and close deals worth nearly $300 million for leaders, startups, mid-sized businesses, and business accelerators.
And her work has been featured in the Oprah magazine, Black Enterprise, the New York Times, and at conferences and summits.
Deb, we are so glad to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're not hearing you. So let's see what's going on. Do I got something on my end? I do. Wait, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, now let's give it a whirl. That was me on that one.
Fabulous. So happy to be here to share some LinkedIn insight with everyone.
Absolutely. We're excited to learn more. So how did you get into this business? What's your backstory? What's the origin story of Deborah Ashley, the LinkedIn Black Belt?
So here's an interesting thing. So I come from a 20-year marketing background in the corporate world. One day, like probably most of us do, right? Mid-40s, and I'm just thinking, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. So, and I've done entrepreneurial endeavors before, but I woke up and I figured that I need to find my next thing in my journey. I found this amazing online space of people who are great at what they do, but they're not so great at marketing what they do. And I've always had a LinkedIn account, always been on LinkedIn, and I decided to give it a whirl. The interesting thing, I only went onto LinkedIn to update my profile. This is before Microsoft bought it, so it was just resumes and recruiters, and some people still think about LinkedIn that way. But within 2 days of updating my profile, I had 2 people reach out to me to put together their marketing plan, and of course, I'm shocked because I'm like, what's going on here? This is about resumes and recruiters, so it kind of opened my mind to this whole universe of business owners who needed help. The reason that I really stepped into doing it, because at that point I was just working on the marketing end. The reason, and you guys have probably seen this online, it's very notorious in the online space, we have these overnight experts, right? So the reason that I started to really step into this LinkedIn space and own it is because I would see a lot of people giving this really, really bad advice, and I don't like to see people be misled. I always call myself an outspoken introvert. So what I did, I just started to share my insight and my values, because my goal was to make sure that if people were hearing one side of the story, they were going to hear the other side too. So at least they could question things. So that's how it really became, commonplace. People started to find my content. They started to follow me, and I got the name of LinkedIn Black Belt from other people out there.
So
That's awesome.
let's see. Yeah, that was great. So we can see at least 2/3 of us. So this is a good start. Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay, so when we were getting you ready to come on the show, you shared with us 5 elements of a LinkedIn profile that drive leads. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Definitely. When we talk about LinkedIn and we think about how we're using it, obviously the goal, we have to have a goal first, right? Whether it's brand awareness, whether it's to drive sales, whether it's to build your personal brand. But, more often than not, when you think about how people are going to start to follow you and connect with you, your profile is at least 70% of the equation. So we typically hear people who, and I see it in so many different avenues where they say, just start putting out content on LinkedIn. That's fabulous. But if you could have amazing content, but if your profile's outdated, if you don't have an optimized profile, then what's going to happen is that it's going to build mistrust, because people will expect certain things based on your content. And if they don't see it, then they're going to be just a little bit disappointed, right? So I'll go through the 5 elements. If you guys have any questions in between, obviously feel free to stop me. So when we think about the LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn within itself is a search engine. So every single day, there's someone on the platform searching for a skill set that you have or something that you do. So for the first element, when we think about, and this is almost like a self-audit for people too, right? When you think about your profile, it must pull prospects from other areas of the digital space. So from the ecosystem, it must pull prospects in, whether it's from Google. If someone decides they're going to Google your name or they're going to Google something that they need help with, more often than not, if you come up, you're going to be on the second, or you should be at least at the second or the third space for Google, right? Also, if you put out content, how are you going to drive people from your content? How are you going to build that intrigue to drive people from your content on LinkedIn back to your profile? Another way we say when we talk about it must pull people from other avenues, like I mentioned, LinkedIn within itself is a search engine. So when we think about people looking you up, we want to make sure that you actually show up and you'll see it if you do a search on LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you show up on that very first page. People will typically scroll that very first page and not going to go to the second, third, or fourth. So we want to set up your profile that it's optimized. And optimized means that it not only positions you as a credible authority in your space, but it also it drives business, it drives leads to your space. And the way you do that, you figure out keywords. What are the keywords that people are going to start to look up in order to find you? So, for someone who's in maybe organizational management, you want to start to think about how can you update your headline, how can you update your about section, how can you update your experience? So the word organizational development or organizational management comes up several times in your path. So that's the very first one. I always think about measuring everything, right? So when we think about how to understand if your profile is pulling people from other parts of the platform, that's going to be based on how many profile views you have and how many times you can search. And if you go, and I don't want to get too, advanced with this, but if you look at your profile, there's something called your private dashboard. Every single Wednesday, at the very last column, it's how many searches have you been found in this week. You want to take a look at that number. If it's under 300, that means your profile is not optimized. You want to take a look at that very first number, it's your profile views. If it's not increasing on a regular basis, that means you're not being found, and obviously if you're not being found, you're not being considered. So that's the very first one. So then we start to think about, how can we make that better? So the second thing, we want to make sure that our profile is building credibility, it's building visibility, which we just talked about, but it's also building trust. Because you could be the most amazing, most brilliant, experienced person with your inner circle, which is offline. But if you cannot build trust online, then everything's for naught. And obviously, ever since it's a year and a half now, ever since the pandemic hit, right? We had floods of people, we had floods of companies coming into this online space, almost like these big brands even realizing that LinkedIn even exists. So business is going on every single day on LinkedIn, but how can you make sure that your profile is set up to build trust? And some ways you can do that. We think about social proof. We think about building yourself as an authority. There's a section called endorsements, and there's a section called recommendations. I always say, make sure your recommendations are current. So when we look at your recommendation area, and it's almost like when we think about, testimonials or letter of references, right? You can send out to people that you've either worked with, to people that you've either mentored, to people that you've led. You can send them out requests and let them know, hey, I am working on updating my LinkedIn profile. I would love for you to share a testimonial on the work that we did together and how it impacted you. So that's going to start to build trust. When someone takes a look at your profile, they'll get an idea, right? They'll get an idea of what you're like to work with. And the great thing about it, unlike some other platforms, you can actually click on the name and you can see who that person is. The interesting thing, I had a client who reached out to me, this was last year. She reached out to me and she was interested in taking her leadership consulting background, utilize it on the LinkedIn platform to get more opportunities in the consulting world. And for me, like I mentioned, I come from the corporate world. The big thing for me, the hardest thing was imposter syndrome, which a lot of people have on the LinkedIn platform. So when I told her, and she's a military spouse, by the way, so when I told her we can actually take her unique experience and we can position her as a educator and an authority in her field as it relates to military spouses, she was hesitant. She's like, I don't want to call myself an authority. I don't want to do that. I said, well, you don't have to call yourself an authority. The goal is for other people to do it. So she trusted me. She trusted the process. Within 3 months, someone from Microsoft reached out, and they wanted her to build out this pilot program they were developing for military spouses. So it becomes easy. Like if you set yourself up for success, if you position yourself the right way, these companies are searching for particular things every single day so you can get found to them. And here's the interesting thing. The more unique, and everyone has a very unique background or something unique in their background that they can use, the more unique you position yourself, the higher the contracts and the better opportunities you get. So that's number 2, establishing your credibility, authority, and also building trust. All right, so then the next one, when we think about your profile, I always see these profiles that says, we'll do, Jon is a brilliant public speaker. Jon has 15 years of experience. Jon is, and I'm thinking, okay, why are we talking about ourselves in the third party? So the third one is that we have to make sure that we humanize our brand, right? We speak about ourselves in the first party, but the thing about, when we talk about our about section, it's not about us. We're discussing the journey that your current potential client is going through, that they're going on, and how you're the solution to the problem. So even though, and I'll tell you what mine starts, I had a few different intros. So when we think about the about section, we have 2 lines in order to capture their attention for them to want to see So I think about, what are my people going through right now? My people know and they understand the value of LinkedIn. However, they do not have a strategy in order to make it work for them. So those are pretty much the first two sentences of my about section. I also mentioned that LinkedIn, the way you thought it worked even 3 to 5 years ago, it doesn't work that way anymore. The game has changed. The platform is flooded, but it doesn't have to be. And then I go into everything else. So your only goal when you think about that about section is not to make sure you're speaking in the third party, but to make sure that you're humanizing your brand and you're also making them realize you are the industry expert. Now, the next one, the fourth one, I spoke about this a little bit when I talked about your overall platform. It should show undeniable social proof that you are the industry leader. And the way that you can do that, all you can do is simply share the testimonials. Like I said, reach out to a few people that you've worked with in the past, get endorsements, get testimonials, and they call them recommendations, but they're pretty much testimonials, right? More than anything, endorsements matter, but those recommendations matter a whole lot more. So you want to make sure that you keep those updated. You always want to be in the process of asking people for recommendations. You're not always going to get them, but it doesn't hurt every single month to make it part of your activity that you ask for at least 3 recommendations for people. So that's an undeniable social proof. And then the last one, your profile must facilitate next steps. So when we think about how we're going to lead people, how we're going to get them back into it, the goal of LinkedIn obviously is to get them off LinkedIn, onto the phone, onto Zoom, wherever. How are we going to lead them off LinkedIn and either get on a call or get on Zoom? So in your about section, you want to give a call to action. CTA, as most of you have heard. You want to let them know. Do you want them to set up a call with you? Do you want them to fill out a form? Do you want them to reach out to you just on LinkedIn? If you're on the platform all the time, you can simply have them reach out to you on LinkedIn. You can even leave your phone number. Surprisingly, I left my phone number I no longer have my phone number on there, but I had my phone number in my about section. And I was really surprised when someone called. I don't think I even recognized what the ringer was on my phone at that point. But yeah, they actually found me on LinkedIn. They did a search. They found me on LinkedIn and they called me right away. So you want to make sure we have all of those factors in place so you can actually use this information and do an audit for yourself.
That is such great information. Can you share, so you gave a couple examples of a call to action, and I think that's where most people they overlook that step, or I think you talked about imposter syndrome and that fear of putting yourself out there. So in observing myself and other people, what I see is people make content, they put that stuff out there, they do step 1, 2, maybe but when it comes to that call to action, it's almost like there's a fear of not being good enough or being an imposter. So do you have a few examples of some specific ways that somebody could put a call to action? Because I see your program is very measurable. How many leads do you get per day? That's very powerful. So what would be a good call to action for somebody for the beginner?
So if you want to, you first have to determine what your ideal client actually wants from you. You understand the problem that you solve, but specifically, and it's not surface level, what's that deepest desire that they want? So let's, as an example, let's say you're a speaker, right? And maybe there's an event organizer. Your only goal is to attract event organizers. Their goal is not to necessarily, to have a great speaker, that's good. Their bigger goal is to fill seats. So if you'd like to fill seats for your conference and have continuous rave reviews and people coming back for more, send me a message here on LinkedIn or watch my, when you want to have a speaker reel, if you're a speaker, then watch my speaker reel, which is right below this section. So you have to think about what's that deeper desire that they have, and I know I can fill it because I've done it before, right? So those are the things you think about. Another one, obviously, we think about on the podcast side, if you, that's your goal to bring more traffic to your podcast, If you would like to hear about the latest technology, about the latest things that's happening in business today, go ahead and watch this specific podcast. So every single week, you can change up that link. Go ahead and watch this specific podcast. I promise you within just 30 minutes, you are able to do X, Y, and Z. You'll be able to gain X, Y, and Z knowledge. Obviously, from your podcast, now you're leading them somewhere else. When we talk about funnels, you're leading them somewhere else in the journey, and that's part of the brand awareness because we want to have a ultimate goal.
That is fantastic. Tracy, do you have a question?
No, I don't have really a question, but I do want to comment on that funnel idea, because sometimes it's hard to get people to just buy anything right away, buy into anything right away. But if you can get them to be interested in some other thing that you're offering or giving value to, and then kind of have them warm up to you a little bit, I really love that approach. I really like it.
Exactly. Yeah, I call it breadcrumbs. When I'm working with my clients, I always tell them, this is when we're talking about content in the platform, make sure you have breadcrumbs, because if someone Googles you and they'll go directly to your profile, if they're interested, now they're going to see what you're putting out there. So you want to have, and I'll tell you a really quick strategy to do this. You want to think maybe about the 10 top things that they have that they may struggle with or that they may have questions with, turn that into content. So whenever they go and take a look at your content, every single piece of content is addressing the issue they have. So now they're like, okay, this is the person. She's actually solving my problems right now. When you think about your, at least with my ideal client, when you think about your ideal client, they're not trying to do it all on their own. You're not selling information. You're selling guidance, and you're selling accountability, and you're selling your 10, 20, 30 years of experience. So don't be afraid to put your content out there. Don't make it too confusing. One of the mistakes I made when I first came on the platform, because I was so excited about, this whole business end of LinkedIn. I have, like I mentioned, a 20-year background in marketing. Sometimes it can get too high level. So I realized I wasn't getting much traction. I wasn't getting much engagement when it was too high level, which to me is just, 101. But when I really broke it down into very, very simple frameworks and very simple talking points, and a lot of people say they love, the content I put out because I talk like I write like I talk. But when I broke it down into very, very simple, talking points, that's when engagement shot up, because a lot of people don't want to have to think. Sometimes, you have different people who come onto the platform. We have maybe executive teams who may come on to inform their decisions. So they may look up what's the latest things going on in my industry. That's why you realize maybe 2 years ago it was LinkedIn, they're positioning themselves as a media platform. No longer is it necessary for these executives. I mean, you still have to pick up your Wall Street Journal, right? When I worked in New York City back in the days when we were in the high-rise buildings, you would see the Wall Street Journals at the front of the elevator. You still do that, but you can go onto LinkedIn and you can read the finance news. You can read that there's a post today about the city that never sleeps is now awake again. I mean, just that title alone gives me the chills. So you have to just think about how can you now become a media platform for the people who need things.
Yeah.
Great input. And speaking of LinkedIn, we are on our first LinkedIn Live today, so I'm pretty excited about that. Everybody on LinkedIn, if you could put a comment below on our LinkedIn Live post, it would be greatly appreciated, just to know that we're existing in the world. Kim, do you have a inbound journey on your LinkedIn page?
Ish. We'll say ish. I thought my profile was super optimized, I thought, but that call to action thing does kind of get me. I mean, I try to utilize as many areas in my profile as I can for searchability, but I don't know that my keywords are perfect either. I feel like that changes a lot, and that's kind of something that always needs to be reviewed. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I feel like it's definitely that, and putting that call to action to go with the keywords, I think, is probably a focus I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll share a quick tip if you guys are open to it.
Always.
Absolutely.
So what I do, well, I have mine optimized at this point. Before, whenever I have new clients who come to get their profile overhauled, you find out what's their specific strength, what's something that they do really strong. I then type that in. I go to jobs, and I see all the keywords that those companies, like the bigger brands, are looking as it relates to that. Then you can pull your other keywords from that. So that would be helpful for anyone who wants to figure out what are my keywords, what are my people looking for. It's not about what we think our keywords are, right? It's what other people are searching for.
That's a fabulous tip.
That's such a good point, and we forget that. And so if any of you have been through any type of a webinar or a course or anything, a seminar, any free help to help your business, it always starts out with the ideal client, and we overlook that. And we don't do a thorough job. The more thorough you are, and Deb, you talked about talked about connecting with your ideal client, and they'll give you the words that they use, they'll give you their problems. The more research and time we spend working on our ideal client, talking to our ideal client, writing down the words that they say, writing down their problems, and then making solutions that directly solve those problems is directly proportionate to how well your business is doing, because you're going to be speaking their language, reading their mind, and solving their problems. I wanted to ask you one question about the testimonials. It helps with your credibility and helps you with that know, like, and trust, but you have a twist to that where you say, measuring it, which I think is great. But does the testimonials and the credibility also help with the algorithm of LinkedIn?
It doesn't necessarily help with the algorithm when we think about how it's going to bring people. The endorsements do. So when you look under the skill sets and you can list, I wouldn't say to list more than even 20, but you can list your top skills and you have the 3 that you can pin. So those are the things that help with the algorithm to bring people back to your site. The experience area helps algorithm-wise. The headline area helps algorithm-wise. The about section helps algorithm-wise. And then, one that I found, because I always, have my clients and they're like, how are you? I'm up to 1,000 search appearances, which is incredible. So they're asking how to do that. There's an area where you can fill in publications, journals that you've written in, any volunteer work. So I always mention my keywords in there too, especially with publications.
Oh, that is such good advice. I think we're all going to be diving into the LinkedIn for the long weekend. I know that I am. Is there any questions from the audience?
If not, I do have another question for you.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, so LinkedIn has events that you can post all of your events in there. How effective are events on LinkedIn versus other platforms like Facebook events or Eventbrite? Or do you find that it's getting more traction now, or it's becoming more widely used with people that use LinkedIn? Like, what kind of feedback do you have on that?
They are mind-blowing, extremely effective. I had a client do an event 3 weeks ago. She had, and you're always going to, obviously the same thing, you're going to have people who come into your event, but you also have to bring them back to your landing page. She had 1,200 people sign up under LinkedIn for their event, and she brought 800 people back to her landing page. So it's wildly effective. When we think about what happened last year, people were doing webinars and attending events and all of that stuff. And I thought, okay, people are sick of that. They're not. I have an event coming up next week. And I have 400 people registered on the LinkedIn side. I'm doing a split between people on Facebook and people on LinkedIn. I have 4 people registered, and most of them have moved over to my landing page to register too. So the clue with that, though, so it can't just be about, let me set up the event and name it something. You have to continue continue to nurture them in order for them to get excited about it. Because obviously, just like any event, you want to start to plan it 4 to 6 weeks in advance to get that many people. Because when you think about LinkedIn, I think, what are they nearly up to? A little over 800 million at this point. Maybe you have 40% of the people who log into the platform on a regular basis. So you may send an invitation to someone, today, but they may not even log in or see it for 2 weeks from now. So you have to make sure that you plan out ahead of time. You have the right copy based on the topic that they want to listen to, and you yourself, you have to position yourself as an authority, because they have to be sold on the person. They're going to spend, whether they spend 30 minutes with you, an hour with you. For me, it's minus 5 days, believe it or not. So whether they spend 20 minutes or 5 days, they have to buy into you as an expert for them because time is money. So they have to buy into you as an expert for them to spend that time. So yeah, LinkedIn events, amazing. I even encourage companies when they think about, because companies just for clients that they're trying to nurture and sell to, when it's like, huge $100,000, $500,000 contracts they put on private events. I always encourage them to also do LinkedIn events, because a lot of people, they don't mind. It's virtual. They don't mind signing up for the events. So I think everyone should be using those.
We should get a
That's
deep
awesome.
dive
That
with
was-
you on how to set up exactly on how to set up an event, because I think there's a lot that goes into it. That was great information. We'll put a link in the chat for the connectshow.com/Deborah Ashley. And that's with 2 B's, correct? And then
2
that's
R's.
2 R's.
2 R's. Yes, 2 R's. Right. I was looking at the wrong side of the thing. Okay. So we'll put that into the chat, and we have all of your information, all of your LinkedIn information, signing up for your masterclass, and all of that, all on one page for you. And we'll also put some replays of this video in case anybody would like to see it. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to learn in that 5-day class on mastering LinkedIn.
So the biggest thing, I'm always about positioning yourself as an industry authority. So on day one, it's really about understanding, what is that unique thing inside of you where you're comfortable standing up and saying, I'm an authority in X, Y, and Z. So it's an exercise in understanding that and claiming your authority. Day 2 is all about the profile. We take this route where once we understand who we are and what we're an authority in, now it's time to work on our profile. So it's about working on our profile. Day 3 is put it together, and for those who are looking to use LinkedIn as a revenue stream, building out your numbers and your figures to build out a $250,000 revenue stream from LinkedIn. Day 4, we're going to go into thinking about how do we now start to connect with the right people on LinkedIn. I talk about 3 C's. We don't have a lot of time to go into it, but you think about your potential clients, your collaborators, and your potential champions. So how can we start to think about LinkedIn to attract those people? And then day 5, we're going to do self-audits. So we're going to start to think about LinkedIn that way too.
This is fantastic. I signed up, so I can't wait to see you in that crowd of hundreds and hundreds of people. I know I'll stand out. No, not really, but I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I really, I think no matter where you are in your journey, unless you are doing an event where 1,200 people sign up and 800 people go to your landing page, unless you're at that point, you need this 5-day LinkedIn Masterclass starting December 6th with Deborah Ashley. And like I said before, we will have all those links. They are already in the chat. Kim is rocking it, and that is fantastic.
That's
So-
awesome. Go ahead.
Oh, wrong way. There we go.
I'm
ahead.
curious, does anybody in Zoom have anything that they learned today to put that in the chat about LinkedIn today before we move on to the rest of our show?
One thing I'll add for you guys, if you want to, just a little bit of homework for today.
Oh,
Think
homework.
about your, LinkedIn is very good with hashtags. think about a personal hashtag that you can create for yourself. Once you start to put out content, you're always attaching that hashtag. If you look up hashtag the LinkedIn Black Belt, you're going to see I don't think LinkedIn keeps your content more than a year, unfortunately. You're going to see every single piece of content that I put out over the past year. So if someone now starts to look you up, you can have a specific hashtag, or if you go to a networking event and someone wants to connect with you, all you have to say is, look me up at hashtag the Connect Show, and you're going to see everything that I put out there, right? So have your personalized hashtag that someone can find you. If your name is maybe hard to spell and you don't want to have to sort that out, you can always just give them your hashtag and they can find you.
That is wonderful. We are doing a hashtag promotion coming up after Thanksgiving with all of our content. So that is great advice. And Sarah said that she's going to be including keywords in the multiple areas of the profile. Something she's definitely going to work on. I think that is a great reminder. And with that, Deborah, thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been wonderful to have you. And this is great information that it's going to help all of us in our LinkedIn profiles. And I cannot wait to see you on December 6th for your 5-day LinkedIn Masterclass.
Fabulous. Thanks for having me, Jon and Tracy, and thanks everyone else for being here.
Thanks, Deborah. Thanks for coming on.
I am one of the ones who wave at the end of the
All right, so with that, where are we? We're on camera 1. This is fantastic. So what we are going to do on camera 1 is tell you about Kim Knock, who's going to be doing the networking report. And take it away, Kim.
All right, here I am. Figured it out. Got myself unmuted. I'm working it. I'm going to do things a little backwards today because I always forget to talk about our event calendar on the Connect Show's website. So if you have a networking event or an event or anything you want to promote, add it to our calendar. After I'm done with my report, I will put links in the chat for you to be able to do that. But definitely do it because it's free promotion for you, right? Last week, I talked about Sarah Deacon's holiday balance call. I attended it. It was great. She is always on the show with us. So I'm going to put a link in the chat for her call, which is again today at 1 p.m. Central. And she's doing it every Tuesday through the rest of 2021. I am also going to talk about a few local to Milwaukee area in-person events, because if you're having some Zoom fatigue, which I don't care, I'll do both. This gives you an opportunity to go meet with some people in person and change up your networking a little bit. So one group I'm going to talk about, I talked about right at the beginning of the show, is Rely Local. They have 2 more events yet this month. So tomorrow they will be having lunch at the Dish, which is in Racine. And their lunches begin at 11:30. First half an hour is, talking and networking. And then you can order food if you choose or drinks and kind of chat throughout that. And then they're usually done by about 1 p.m. Then they have another one on the 30th at Aranda's, which is in Delavan. So the nice thing about Rely Local is they kind of get all over southern Wisconsin. And I believe that they might even be hitting a little bit northern Wisconsin. Then if you're not in Zoom fatigue, every Friday they have a Zoom meet at 11:30. And I will put the link for Rely Local events right in the chat. So if you're interested in that, you could check it out. Another in-person is the Milwaukee Breakfast Club. They meet the 2nd and 4th Tuesday every month at Open Flame Restaurant, which is on Highway 100 in Hills Corners. They meet from 7:30 a.m. till about 9 a.m. And I hear that is a really highly attended networking event. Unfortunately, the timing doesn't tend to work out for me, but I'm going to make it happen. So, second and fourth Tuesday, 7:30 a.m., the Milwaukee Breakfast Club. And just make sure that you're still networking through the holidays because your business does not stop because the holidays are happening. So don't lose that motivation. Don't lose that line of sight. I am going to use that classic quote that I continue to use. If you're not networking, you're not working. And that's from Dennis Waitley. And that's what I have for networking report today. Thank you for joining me. We're going to put Jon back on screen. Hopefully he's ready. There's Tracy.
And here's me. So thanks, Kim. Thanks for all of that.
You're welcome.
And we're going to move into telling you guys about our next show, which is next Tuesday. And we're going to have Steve Brossman, who's a sales master. And we'll also have a couple of special guests to talk about holiday gifts that you can give to your clients or loved ones. And Jon, what's next?
I have no idea.
We're going to like, subscribe, and follow and share. And then we're going to say thank you to all of we're going to say thank you to all of our guests.
Yes, we are. So this went fairly okay. We kind of made it, right?
I think we did pretty good, actually.
Let's give a round of applause. Jon did it all on his own today, you guys. Way to go, Jon.
This was something. This was something. We need a little bit more on the automation side to make this happen because, that was kind of a lot.
And I checked us out on LinkedIn Live. We look pretty great over there.
Did we? It worked out?
Yeah, looks pretty good.
Exciting. This is exciting. We have a 2-shot, which I spent the whole show trying to find out where that button was for this shot. And we find it for the last, final parting shot.
I do like this shot.
It's kind of cool. We need a little motion in the background, a little motion in the ocean, right? Yeah. So with that, our show is over. And this has been just a joy to hang out with all of you today. What is one thing that you are going to do this holiday weekend, not with your family, not with being all those things that you should be doing, but with your business and your LinkedIn page, Tracy? What are you going to do?
What am I going to do? I'm going to schedule all my LinkedIn events.
And
I'm going to make sure to use the right keywords and give them a little extra love because apparently I'm not loving them enough.
Yes. Keywords and clarity of message are good. Eleanor Beaton is the clarity queen. She was on our show September 28th, and she has a whole program going right now on clarity. I think I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go to Deborah Ashley, the LinkedIn Black Belt. I'm going to go to her LinkedIn profile page. Look at what she's doing.
And copy it?
Copy everything she's doing because she is just rocking the LinkedIn, right? I mean, an event with 1,200 people and 800 show up. Good golly, Miss Molly, I want to do some of that.
It's showing it some love, I think. I think she spends, I think she really is very intentional on her LinkedIn account.
Yeah. You got to put in the work and be willing to, she talked about that imposter syndrome that keeps coming up. If you're embraced with your future story, like what is it, Chris Rivero talks about being in love with your future story. If you're in love with that story, then you can't have imposter syndrome. So it's the mindset, copy Deborah, make a bunch of events, have 1,200 people show up, and then it's just that easy. See, we've solved marketing for the digital age in 3 sentences. We're just that good. Good job, Tracy. You did it.
I know. It was all you, Jon. I just showed up and looked good for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Kim, for all you do. That was a fantastic networking report. Thank you, Van, Roy, Sarah, and Karen for joining us on Zoom, and everybody on Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, and YouTube Live. We appreciate you spending this hour with us. We hope you got value out of it. Please like, subscribe, share, use the hashtag TheConnectShow. and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Where's the fade to black button? I don't know where that
The
button is.
Queenie wave.
There we go.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, but
Let's stop streaming. I don't know if I can do that.